So we're in our series on the fruit of the Spirit, looking today at faith. So far we've looked at the idea that if we walk closely with Jesus, we will become like Jesus. The fruit of the Spirit are all describing what Jesus is like. He's loving, he's all loving, he's perfectly patient, he's perfectly kind, he's gentle, he's full of self-control, he is faithful to us, and he has ultimate faith in his Father. He's fully kind and he brings us perfect peace. And today, I want to look at the faith of Jesus. And as we spend time with Jesus, friends, what happens is we start to smell like Jesus. We start to pick things up that Jesus carries. So when it says walk in step with the Spirit, if the Holy Spirit is Jesus with us now, we will become like Jesus and we will develop faith. And we become like him by spending time with Jesus. We become like him by reading our Bibles day and night. We become like him by praying. We become like him by worshiping. We've heard it today. We've heard some of the wonderful things that Jesus has said that he is, said that he will do, and says that he has done before. And what happens is that when we do these things, when I read the Bible, my faith grows. The Greek word faith comes back to mean that faith is that you trust that someone or something will do exactly what it says it will do. So when it comes to this faithful poang, Ikea say that when you sit on it, you will not fall on the floor. Ikea say that when you sit on it, you will be held. Ikea say that when you sit on it, you can trust the maker of it, that it was designed in such a way that you will not fall, but it would sustain you. My box, however, did not have such promise. My box had very little promise about it. You couldn't trust me if I'm building something for Johnny. You can't trust me that it's not going to fall. You can't trust me that it's not going to sustain you. You can't trust me in any part of that, but you can trust the poang. We'll go with it. You can trust the poang that it will sustain you, that it will hold you, and that it will do exactly what it says it will do. And that, friends, is what faith is. That when we spend time with Jesus, our faith in him grows. Now, you might think I'm obsessed with the chair analogy, but let's take that towards God, and let's take that towards life. If I sit with God, my faith will grow. I will trust that God will do exactly what he says he will do. That God will be exactly who he says he will be. That God has done exactly what he says he has done. And that one day God will do it all again, and he will do exactly what he means, and he will complete it, and he will fulfill it. However, everything else in life will fail me. The things that I might go to bring me comfort, that might bring me peace, that might bring me any form of settlement will fail me if it's outside of God. But in God, I can have faith that he will be exactly who he says he will be. And when I spend time with him, my faith will grow. Friends, some of you are in what can be described as the dark night of your soul. You are in the thick of it. And I hear that. And God sees that. There are questions, there are doubts, there are fears, there are anxieties in the room. And God says, bring that to me. I remember there have been times in my life where I've been at a place of desperation before God, crying out, God, I need you to do something. I need you to do something on behalf of my loved ones. I need you to do something in my life because I don't feel like I've got the strength to face the day. And when I've spent time with Jesus, and I'm not just saying this as a Christian salesman. I'm saying it because, as we've said before, I sing because I've known his grace. I've known his grace to me in the darkest night of my soul, that when I've sat in my chair, cup of coffee in hand, Bible in another, I've said, Jesus, I come to you in full weakness today. And as I've left that place knowing that Jesus will be everything he says that he will be in this book. Jesus will do everything he says that he will do, and no word from his mouth or no word from his book will return to him without it being completed. And that's the case when we spend time with Jesus and remind ourselves who he is, that he's a giver of peace that surpasses all understanding. He left us a peace. He's a comforter. He's a helper. He's a restorer. He's a healer. He's a redeemer. He delivers, he heals, and he sets free. Jesus will do exactly what he says he will do. And the ultimate way that we see this, which we're going to go on to in a minute, is through his death and resurrection. The Bible foretold that Jesus would come to the earth. He would take the weight of our brokenness, our sin, and our shame upon his shoulders, and he will nail it to the cross. Jesus even said that himself, that in a few days, he says to his closest friends, I'm going to be handed over, I'm going to die, and on the third day, I'll rise again. And by doing so, he took all of my sin, all of my guilt, all of my shame, all of your sin, your guilt, your shame, nailed it to the cross and declared that it is finished, and he defeated death on the third day. Death was no match for Jesus. Friends, we seem to have forgotten what we did at the start. Death was no match for Jesus. The power of sin is no match for Jesus. Sickness is no match for Jesus. Hopelessness is no match for Jesus. Why? Because what he did, he said he would do, and what he will do, he says he will do it again. And I remember that through his death, through his resurrection in the cross. And what's our response to all of that? What do we do in all of that? We come and we celebrate all that he's done, all that he said he will do, and we remind ourselves as we experience him again that he will be everything he says he will be. And the way that we're going to do that today is through communion. Communion is not just a nice thing that we do, where we get to have a little sugar rush from the really sugary non-alcoholic wine. Or we have a little bit of the bread and we can sit down and reflect on, oh, isn't the cross lovely? No. Communion is a moment where we experience the death and resurrection of Jesus. And our response in the communion liturgy is to draw near with faith, to respond in faith that Jesus will be all that he says he will be. Jesus was all that he says he was. And right now in this room and in the front hall, when we celebrate that Jesus is everything he says he is, and we can draw near to him in faith.